WCBI News at 10 starts now.
Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Cash Matlock. A Lee County shooting suspect is denied bond this evening after being caught by Tupelo police Friday. Justice Court Judge Chuck Hopkins denies bond for 48-year-old Gary Scotty McDonald. McDonald was captured in a wooded area near Highway 366 and County Road 5321 in Prentiss County. McDonald is accused of shooting and killing his ex-girlfriend, Connor Noel Kyle, at an apartment next door to Adams Auto Sales on 4th Street. McDonald worked briefly at Adams Auto Sales as a repo man after he was released from prison. The shooting prompted a week-long manhunt involving local, state, and federal agencies. McDonald was taken without incident. A memorial service for Kyle is set for next Saturday in Saltillo. The Mississippi Department of Health reports 797 new cases of COVID-19 with 15 new deaths. There are 32 new cases reported among long-term care facilities. The total number of cases in Mississippi since March 11th is now more than 35,000, with more than 1,200 total deaths. More than 22,000 people are presumed to have recovered from the virus. The coronavirus hotline is the best way to get your questions about COVID-19 answered. You can call 877-978-6453, 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. On Friday, Mississippi had its highest one-day total of hospitalizations. That follows along with the warnings we heard from the medical community Thursday that things are getting worse. Courtney Ann Jackson has the latest on what's behind some of those numbers. Take a look.
Hospital capacity numbers for Mississippi aren't easy to find, at least not with complete data. The CDC has some numbers that show Mississippi is utilizing about 60% of its capacity, but a closer look reveals only about 40% of the hospitals are reporting numbers to that. But the Mississippi Hospital Association notes that bed counts don't tell the whole story.
It doesn't matter how many beds you have. Beds are great if you're a hotel. You want beds. In a hospital, you want to be able to staff those beds.
Even before COVID-19, there were warnings of both doctor and nurse shortages in the state.
So, what the concern is really being able to adequately staff those beds with the type of care providers that those patients will need. And for a COVID patient, what our hospitals across the country are seeing is those COVID patients tend to stay in the hospital longer than your average length of stay for other patients.
What I also learned is that a number of the licensed hospital beds also doesn't give a full picture. For example, the Mississippi Baptist Medical Center in Jackson, they have 638 licensed beds, but only 491 active beds. That's the physical bed capacity with their current layout. 336 of those beds are occupied. They have 76 critical care beds, 32 of which are neonatal ICU beds. 53 ICU beds are currently occupied, with 14 of those being in the neonatal ICU. UMMC doctors were among those sounding the alarm Thursday. We checked in to learn their numbers Friday. On the Jackson campus, they have 400 adult beds. They are full. Of 80 ICU beds, they're also full.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
UMMC says it has also had to place some adults in the children's hospital because there was no room in the adult hospital.
It is certainly a mild and muggy Saturday evening out there. Take a look at some of these temperatures. We're 79 in Columbus, 82 still in Tupelo, 80 right now in Bruce, and 77 in Louisville. Nothing on radar to talk about. That's a little bit of good news. As a matter of fact, skies are mostly clear as we get into the 10 o'clock hour. But watch what happens overnight tonight. Clouds filter in here by about midnight, and then possibly a line of storms coming through here early tomorrow morning. We're talking about 4 a.m. until about 10 or 11. So just keep that in mind if you have any early morning activities. You might hear a little bit of thunder and lightning. Overnight tonight, as I mentioned, clouds continue to filter on in here. 72 for the low. Tomorrow, we're going to wake up to some showers and storms, and then the chance will continue for pop-up storms through the day. Hot weather continues, though. I've got details on how hot the weather will get coming up in just a little bit. Cash.
All right, thanks, Trevor. Record highs in regards to the coronavirus are being set all across the nation. 68,000 more coronavirus cases were reported Friday, setting a new single-day record for the 7th time in 11 days. Hospitals in parts of the Sun Belt are being pushed to the limit, and states are scrambling to reimpose restrictions in hopes of slowing the spread. CBS News correspondent Michael George reports from New York.
About 4 months into the U.S. coronavirus pandemic, Florida now has more than 250,000 confirmed cases. Florida's governor says the recent surge has shifted to a new demographic, young people.
Far and away now, they're the #1 age cohort, that 25 to 30, 34-year-old.
Despite rising case numbers, 2 Walt Disney World parks in the Orlando area reopened to the public Saturday with masks required and social distancing enforced. But in recent days, many states in the South and the West, including Georgia, Arizona, and California, have been reimposing rules.
I feel like them opening up in the first place was pretty much a tease if we just took the quarantine serious in the first place.
At midnight Friday, bars across large parts of Nevada returned to Phase 1 restrictions.
People have bills to pay. This economy out here, this is what they depend on.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott this week warned of a possible lockdown if the state's surge isn't brought under control. He says residents must follow his statewide mask mandate. In Cleveland, a small group rallied against new orders from the governor to wear masks in several counties. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
New York State reported more numbers showing progress in flattening its curve. Hospitalizations fell below 800, the lowest level since mid-March. Well, the coronavirus has forced the cancellation of many events over the past few months. One of those, the Junior Auxiliary of Columbus's 70th annual charity ball. That was canceled not once but twice, but that didn't stop them from taking a chance to give back to the community. Our Savannah Gato has more on the story.
Since we'd already bought the food and we didn't want to ask for a refund from the caterer because one of our missions is to support small businesses in the community, so we decided we'd just give the food away. And so that's what we're here doing today.
Dr. David Curtis, the king of the 2020 Charity Ball, says because of the coronavirus, they've had to cancel many of their events.
Well, we had the celebration ball, which should have occurred 2 months ago, and that was canceled. And then we redid that date for June. It was canceled again. So you can't have a large gathering of people together. So that's the first time in, 30 years that the ball has been canceled. And then after the ball is the King's Brunch, where all of the previous royalty gets together and has brunch and gives toasts and this sort of thing. Of course, that was canceled.
With the help of the Lowndes County Recreation Director, Roger Short, they've been able to serve that food to their neighbors today at the soccer complex. And there's a reason they picked this specific spot.
And we chose this spot because we knew there would be farmers market people, and also we fed a lot of the vendors today because farmers are hurting too.
Curtis says they are very thankful that they were able to give back.
These are testing times for us in the community for a lot of reasons, and the whole reason that JA exists is to serve the community. And this was just an opportunity for us to extend that whole thing to show the community that we care about them and that we care about each other.
Well, even though the Junior Auxiliary hasn't been able to host some of its regular events, they're still developing new projects and plan to continue their clothing and Feed to Succeed projects. Well, when we come back from the break, we're more on the nationwide coin shortage. Stay with us.
WCBI News at 10 p.m. with Cash Matlock.
Welcome back, everyone. President Trump says wearing a mask isn't hard as he headed to a military hospital in Maryland this afternoon. Earlier today, former President Jimmy Carter and his wife posted a photo with the caption, "Masks Save Lives." President Trump is facing new criticism for his handling of the pandemic and his defiant help to keep longtime friend Roger Stone out of jail. CBS's Nicole Killian has the latest from the White House.
President Trump arrived at Walter Reed Military Medical Center donning a navy blue mask during a visit with wounded service members and healthcare workers who've treated COVID patients.
I think it's a great thing to wear a mask. I've never been against masks.
The president, who has rarely worn a mask in public, not only defended the use, but also doubled down on his decision Friday to commute the sentence of his longtime confidant, tweeting, "Roger Stone was targeted by an illegal witch hunt that never should have taken place."
I'm very happy with what I did.
Stone addressed reporters outside his Florida home after the president called him to relay the news.
He had followed my case throughout, and he thought that I had been treated unfairly.
Stone was due to report to prison next week to serve a 40-month sentence after being convicted last November on 7 felony counts, which include witness tampering and lying to Congress. Democrats, from presidential candidate Joe Biden to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, accused the president of abusing his power. So did some Republicans. Mitt Romney chastised unprecedented, historic corruption.
Every president in modern times has used the pardon and commutation power. Some people may not like it when it's used, but it is the president's power.
The president also spent part of his day golfing after postponing a rally in New Hampshire Saturday night. The Trump campaign cited safety because of Tropical Storm Faye, but some sources tell CBS News there were concerns about attendance.
The vice president traveled down to Jacksonville, Florida to thank the host of the Republican National Convention set for next month. The city has become a COVID hotspot. An official says the event was held outdoors as a precaution. Nicole Killian, CBS News, the White House.
Well, back here locally, throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, stores have been dealing with shortages in inventory and supplies. But now they're facing a new shortage, money that is, and you may have seen the signs in shop windows. Several areas are facing a coin shortage. With so many businesses shut down, money has not been circulating as much. On top of that, the U.S. Mint had to limit production due to staffing issues also caused by the virus. Local banker Bart Wise says customer habits are also changing.
Another thing is businesses are starting to reopen, and there's a demand for coin and currency just to restock and get up and going in an operating mode. And then the last thing is the consumer is not really wanting to handle cash and coin, so they've really reverted almost entirely to credit and debit cards.
There could be an opportunity for customers. Some stores and banks are beginning to buy rolled coins.
A pretty nice night in Starkville over on Highway 12 at Blackjack Road, right there in front of Strange Brew Coffee House. Not too much traffic on the roadway, and what you can't see on the camera there is the muggy conditions. Those are going to stick around for the next several days. I've got your full First Alert forecast coming up right after this. Stay with us.
Your WCBI First Alert Accuweather forecast with meteorologist Trevor Burchat.
The heat and humidity, unfortunately, is here to stay. Take a look at these highs for the next several days. 91 tomorrow will quickly rise into the mid and upper 90s, though, as we get into the middle of the week. Showers and storms possible tomorrow. Generally, after that, though, the rest of the week is dry, and that's going to allow those temperatures to warm up here over the next several days. Let me take a live look at radar. I'll show you what's going on. We're tracking this complex of storms out in Oklahoma that is slowly making its way down to the south and the west. All these orange boxes you see here are severe thunderstorm warnings. That's where we're seeing some gusty winds and hail. And what we think is going to happen here is these storms are kind of going to reorganize and make their way possibly into our area by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. So we're talking about 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on Sunday morning. We might have some showers and storms rolling through the area. None of that out there right now on top of WCBI. We're looking at 79 for the current temperature, just a very light wind, and that's allowing that humidity and moisture to really settle around the area, making it very muggy even as we get into the overnight hours. I think there's a bug crawling on the lens. Did you see that? Goodness gracious. We got to get up there and clean that. 72 tonight in Columbus, 74 in Tupelo, 72 in Houston and in Bruce. The clouds will continue to filter in ahead of that complex of storms. And tomorrow, as I mentioned, we're going to wake up, probably see some showers and storms out there. Some of those could be on the stronger side. We're talking about gusty winds, maybe a little bit of small hail. And then after the lunchtime hours, still the potential for some pop-up showers and storms. Otherwise, hot and humid weather sticks around. 91 for the high tomorrow with heat index values closer to 100 degrees. Now, I mentioned some of those storms tomorrow could be just a little bit stronger. Not expecting any major severe weather. There is a level 1 risk. What we're thinking is some gusty winds possible, maybe a little bit of flash flooding if you can get caught under one of those storms. Maybe a little bit of small hail, generally not a major threat, and the tornado threat basically 0. So don't worry about that tonight, but be aware that you might see some gusty winds and lightning by the time you wake up tomorrow morning. The big talking point over the next several days is going to be the temperatures. We'll be 91 tomorrow, 93 Monday, and then quickly into the mid and upper 90s by the end of the week. We're talking 96, 97. But once you factor in the humidity, we are going to be talking about heat index values closer to 100 or 110, depending on where you are. So just keep in mind as you go over the next several days, maybe check on those friends and neighbors, give them a little phone call, make sure they're doing okay in this heat. If you have to be outside, wear light and loose-fitting clothing to help some of that sunlight reflect off of you. And of course, stay hydrated, stay in the shade if you can. But my motto is, when it's this hot outside, just stay inside. Tell the spouse, hey, it is too hot to be doing yard work. I'll catch up on it when it's cooler. It's just too hot to be outside. Or do it early in the morning if you absolutely have to be outside. Here's a look at your AccuWeather 7-day forecast. Showers and storms tomorrow morning, more chances by tomorrow afternoon. After that, generally the rest of the week is looking dry, a mix of sunshine and clouds. Highs climbing very quickly, 93 for Monday, 95 Tuesday, closer to 96 or 97 by Thursday and Friday. Overnight lows in the low to mid 70s, but again, the heat index values closer to 105 or 110 by the end of the week. We're back with more news after this. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us.
CBI Sports with Courtney Robb. WCBI Sports 2020 High School Football Tour is brought to you by Itawamba Community College, Cannon Ford of Starkville, Monroe County Farm Bureau, Max South Broadband, and the Bank of Vernon.
The Boonville Blue Devils know how to win. Following an undefeated regular season in 2018, Boonville comes off yet another successful season. In 2019, the Blue Devils finished with an 8-3 overall record and a division championship appearance. Head coach Mike Maddox says the key to that success? Continuity.
Our kids know what to expect here, know what we expect out of them. The year before we had an undefeated regular season. Our kids went through a lot of adversity when I was sick, and they overcame a lot. They grew up a lot. And I thought our coaches that year did a real good job of teaching things other than football, and I think it spilled over to the next year.
The 2020 season will be slightly different for the Blue Devils because they'll have to create plays without former running back Davian Price. In his senior season, Price accounted for over 1,200 yards rushing and 22 touchdowns in the ground attack. In terms of how you replace such a successful player, Maddox says,
"You can't. You just figure out other ways to be successful, to find ways for other kids to be successful. We could be even better. We could be better than we were last year offensively because, we don't have that one guy that we're counting on. We're going to have 3 or 4 guys. So, that could be a plus for us."
Although losing Price is a massive loss for Boonville, the Blue Devils return 18 seniors, including 5 starters on the offensive line and starting quarterback John Daniel Deaton. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of experience on this Blue Devil squad.
9 starters on offense, 9 starters on defense, and these kids have put a lot of time and effort into it, so it's very important that we play this year some way, somehow.
I want to improve on the long balls. I've kind of struggled with that over the last couple years. Short games, pretty decent, but definitely need to improve on the long balls.
Boonville has made 17 straight appearances to the playoffs, and while that might add pressure to the team, Maddox says it's simply become part of the norm.
Community expects it. It's expected at home. It's expected here. We expect them to give us everything they have, and then the winning will take care of itself.
The Blue Devils will look for another season of success against Moorville at home on August 21st.
You can go home after a ball game and look in the mirror and say, "Boy, I left it all out on that field." The winning usually takes care of itself.
Hopefully a good one. We're trying to put it on to people this year.
Reporting in Boonville on the high school football tour, Courtney Robb, WCBI Sports.
WCBI Sports 2020 High School Football Tour with Boonville High School is brought to you by Boonville Community Pharmacy and F&M Bank.
Welcome back in, everyone. 7 people from across our region are learning a professional ballroom dance routine and raising money for the Boys and Girls Clubs of North Mississippi. The dancers were introduced during the annual Meet the Dancers event at Park Heights in Tupelo. They started working in May, taking lessons with a pro instructor. Each celebrity dancer learns a ballroom dance routine, and they also raise money for the organization. Organizers have faced many challenges this year because of COVID-19, but the needs are still real, and the dancers have already raised nearly $140,000.
This is probably 15 to 20% of our annual budget. And with the COVID crisis, we are doing all of those things in our clubs as far as taking the temperatures, sanitizing, wearing the mask, wearing the gloves. So we're having to buy all of those supplies in addition to what the normal budget would be. So we really, really appreciate what the communities are doing this year.
WCBI's Allie Martin, who is a former dancer, will co-host the event. It takes place at the Bancorp South Arena August 22nd. We are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, Trevor is going to have a final look at weather. Stay with us.
Showers and storms likely through the day tomorrow. Keep the umbrella handy. After that, we dry out and warm up. Highs in the mid and upper 90s. Heat index values closer to 110 at times.
Trevor, I'm actually looking forward to the rain. It's so hot.
I know. I wish we had a little bit more rain in the forecast to cool us down.
All right. Thanks, Trevor. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.